Okay, pokey. Okay, rear shock body, 2008 WR310R, soon to be a 310, well, it is a 310R now. This is the powder coated shock body of Kalani's bike. What I want to show you is this little deal right here. Now on modern 2 and 4 stroke motocross bikes, there's a spherical rod end with bearings in here that needs to be replaced periodically. The WR actually has a rubber bushing sleeve. In other words, this part right here, if you're going to powder coat your shock body, you have to press this out because it's rubber, and the heat from the powder coating will just destroy the rubber. So you press it out, get yourself a new one, press it back in. Once you bolt this tight to the frame, there's enough movement in that rubber inside there to allow the shock to move a little bit. It doesn't do a lot of forward and back anyway, but just make sure you replace that, okay? The adjuster bolt is back in, and we basically are going to set it up in the vise. So it's nice and stable. Now you've got the reservoir here, you got the reservoir here. What you're going to do is you're going to make sure you're on your shock shaft. Most bikes, the rebound adjuster is on the side of the clevis. The WR, it's down here. You want the rebound all the way out, which means all the way down to the clevis. As you go clockwise and screw it up, that's what increases rebound. We don't want that. We want it backed all the way out. That allows shock fluid to move. I don't know if you can see this. There's a little bleed hole right there. When you adjust your rebound and you tighten it up, all it does is push a pin up past that bleed hole and shut it off so that it forces more oil past the shim stack. When you open up the rebound to loosen it up, you're screwing this down, a little pin moves down, opens up that bleed hole and allows more shock oil to move between there. So you're just bypassing the shim stack. So I just call it a bypass. You want that open so that when you're bleeding, you can get all the air out of that shaft area too. So what you do, you take your 3-weight, I'm a Maxima fan, I think they have the slickest, is that a word? Slickest shock oil. And you start just fill up this first reservoir. That baby's about empty. Well, it is empty now, so I got another bottle ready to go, homies. So you're going to start filling up this, and it's going to naturally want to start flowing to the other side. So you got to be kind of quick, get her close to full, and then I've got to go do this over a bin. But you basically put the piston ring around there, and I've already got this kind of lubed. But you basically just pour some oil on this if it's not lubed already. And you're going to slide this thing in. Now there's some overlap, if you can see on that piston ring. You've got to make sure those overlaps are not binding up, that they're overlapping correctly. Just slide that baby in. Oh, spooged on myself. And you start to bleed. There's going to be a lot of air in there. So what I'm doing is, you can see I've got my hand over this bladder chamber here. So I got to keep the oil from just pushing down here and filling that up. So I keep this to keep some air pressure in there. And then you don't want any air bubbles in this shock oil. If you do, when it gets warm, oxygen expands. It feels mushy, it doesn't work well, so you got to get all the air out. And the way you do that is what we call bleeding. So you take the shock shaft and you go down, pull it back up, down, and back up forcefully. And you'll see little bubbles come up. Every now and then you got to add a little bit of oil. Sorry, that's just... Hold up for me there, partner. It's a kind of an act of hand-eye coordination sometimes. You gotta keep enough shock oil in there that if you go too high with the piston, it'll suck in air and you start all over again. So you basically just down and back. Oh yeah, she's more stiff than before. What you do is you just go back and forth. You'll see these little micro air bubbles come out. And you just leave it alone, let it sit for a minute. Those bubbles will work all the way to the top and they'll pop. And you keep going up and down, bleeding that thing until you have no bubbles coming up anymore. I mean zero, none. I've had to bleed shock sometimes for an hour. She's actually bleeding pretty good. Okay, I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute. I might be bleeding for 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and I'll come back with you in just a minute, okay? Okay folks, I've been bleeding for a little while here. It's nice and clean now. I don't have any bubbles coming up anymore. This is the seal head. You want to fill shock oil up to just about the top, not quite. There's a couple little bleed holes right here that it's going to squirt out of. You basically are just going to want to push that seal head down there. If you don't get anything coming out, it means you've got to add just a little bit more shock oil. You want to have a little bit bleeding out, squeezing out when you put that seal head in, so you know that there's no air trap in there. There we go. And then you're going to use your hands. You're just going to push the seal head down into the shock body. Until you see the little clip ring groove inside. I use my fingers. There's tools to do this, but I like my fingers because I like to be able to feel stuff. You know, I like to be able to feel stuff. And you have this little ring right here. Goes in. Clips in. Make sure it's clipped in all the way around, and you take and clean this out really well, because if you have shock oil in there, it's going to attract dirt, garbage, other stuff. You want to keep that clean as you can. Once that's in, then you can pull the shock shaft back up. As you pull up, it seats that seal head up against the clip ring. This can still turn. This piston in there will turn. Feels good, no air in there. Okay, now we'll pop this dust cover on in just a minute.